All right, welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. I ended the first part of this presentation with saying that these secret societies, especially the Black Greek organizations, are Luciferian. I say this because though they try to act as if they're some type of Christian organizations, the truth is that the gods of these organizations is another Christ. And it is our duty for those who walk and worship the way, the truth, and the light to understand and warn people to not be deceived. For many deceivers are entered into the world who confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. Even in Mark, the 13th chapter, in the 6th verse, Christ warns us, saying with this saying, "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many." So in this part, I will talk about certain rituals and practices these divine knot organizations do. In the Black Greek letter organizations, there are 9 fraternities and sororities, and together they are a part of the council called the National Pan-Hellenic Council, or the NPHC. Now, the funny thing I find about the term NPHC is that the group of the so-called black people are accepting the idea that they are Greek, which is an ethnicity, right? Furthermore, the Greeks were known for their many gods and their many orgy parties and many cults. Then also the term pan always intrigued me. The term in this usage means to join, to close together. Makes sense. However, in the Grecian culture, there was also a god by the name of Pan. For those who are interested, Pan was a half man, half goat god, in which the Bible calls his kind a satyr. That's Satyra. Pan is also the god of the shepherds and flock, the god of music, specifically the pan flute. So for those who watch Peter Pan, that's where they get Peter Pan when he be playing that pan flute. He was the god of the wild things and fertility of all kinds. This is where we also get the term pansexuals, because the god Pan had no bounds when it came to that subject. He fornicated with females, nymphs, males, other gods and goddesses, and even children with the help of his pan flute that he used to lure people into the wild. So when you going back to Peter Pan, what did Peter Pan do to lure the lost boys, the little children, to Neverland? He played the flute. So with this god, the satyr, in mind, let's discuss the next subject. The thing I find somewhat comical is that a lot of these organizations try to tell you that they are all about the community and service, and to a certain extent, yes, they are. They are. I'm not going to straight up disrespect, but these organizations, whether it's Black Greek Letter Orgs or Skull and Bones, they are more known for the secrets they hold and for partying. Even when I was a member of the fraternities, the majority of the people, including the members, care more about frolicking and partying rather than genuine service. For example, when I was a member back in college, there was about 14 of us in the chapter. Me and 2 or 3, sometimes 4, of the same brothers, of the same people, always ended up participating in fraternity events that dealt with meetings or going to some high school to talk to kids or community service, right? But when it came to throwing a party or some type of campus event, the brothers that never or rarely showed up to actual profitable service would arrive with their Kappa canes, flies paraphernalia, ready to stroll, flirt, drink, and all that stuff. And crazy enough, this picture was something other chapters from other campuses dealt with, and even other organizations, both fraternal and sororities. And looking back at it now, I can't help but to think, why is that? And the simple answer is because that is the spirit of these organizations, the spirit of Pan. Second, groves. Groves are a plot of trees, something resembling a wood or trees in the wood. In ancient times, many nations and mystery schools had groves in which they dedicated and worshiped their god or gods. And for those who read the scriptures in Genesis, the 21st chapter, in the 33rd verse, it says, "And Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God." 41 times the term grove is used. And out of the 41 times, this was the only time we see the word grove used in a positive sense in Genesis chapter 21, the 33rd chapter. The Hebrew word that they used in this verse was ishel, which is translated to a tamarisk or miracle tree. Also, this word eshel is also used in 1 Samuel chapter 22, verse 6, and chapter 31, verse 13 in the same chapter, in the same book. And in these instances, it was translated as a tree. The other 40 times the word grove is used, it is used in the negative sense. Eshel was translated into grove or tree the first time grove is used. However, the word that's used the other 40 times is Asherah. For those who are history buffs or students of the word, we know that there was a mother goddess named Asherah, who was the wife of Baal or Baal. According to Strong's, the Hebrew term Asherah is defined as groves for idol worship, as well as goddess, her image, sacred trees or poles set up near an altar. In this meaning, groves just mean a place where they would plant a tree or a garden around an idol. For example, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and in the Catholic churches, the churches I attended used to have these places called grottos, right? Grottos. And the way they would place them is by placing a statue of the so-called Queen of Heaven, aka the so-called Virgin Mary, and place the statue in a small cave-like area in a courtyard and will plant shrubs or a garden around this particular statue. And people will go and bow and do the sign of the cross and sometimes say a prayer. This is what a grove is, and this is what pagans used to do in ancient antiquity. It was simply a garden of trees encircling an idol. And the Most High spoke of destroying these groves or religious grottos, shrines, meditation gardens, etc. Now, what does this have to do with Greek fraternities and sororities? Well, on most of these campuses, the Black Greeks have an area called plots. Now, when you look online, you'll see that the history behind the plots come from the days of American slavery, where so-called black folks were supposed to get their 40 acres. However, I beg to differ on that because these plots to the Black Greeks are sacred grounds. No one is able to step foot on these plots unless you're a member of whatever said organizations. Also, on these plots, you will see altars to the gods of those organizations. And by altars, I mean images and paraphernalia that represents that organization. Furthermore, you'll notice that most of these plots are encircled by trees or a garden. Of course, there are exceptions, such as the plots at my universities that I graduated from. But even at my university, at the original plots, there were trees that were somewhat venerated. On these college campuses that have Black Greek letter organizations, you will see modern day groves. On these modern day groves, the Greeks would conduct sacred rituals there, especially in the nighttime. Most of the time, when new members are about to do their probate, new members, which are the new members being revealed to the public, they would meet at the plots and start spitting knowledge. Right, that's what we call it, spit knowledge. They would start chanting, and then would death march from their groves, aka the plots, to wherever the probate is held at. Nonetheless, these are modern day groves, and if you call yourself a Christian, keep that in mind too. Number 3, Invictus. Next, I want to go over some of the rituals that all of the Black Greek letter organizations do. One ritual that they do is spit a poem called Invictus by William Ernest Henley. For those who are privy to the Black Greek culture, they know of this poem. But please keep in mind of the topic at hand, which is it okay for Bible-believing Christians to join secret societies, which includes Divine Nine organizations? So the poem goes like this. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I think whatever gods may be from my unconquerable soul. In the fell culture circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond the place of wrath and tears looms but the horrors of the shade, and yet the minutes of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scrolls. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul, Invictus. Right, so this poem is a solid poem. It's actually a good poem for a artistic standpoint. However, we must break this poem down to see the truth of it. So in the first stanza, where it says, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I think whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the first stanza, this should automatically answer whether or not a Christian should join this organization. In the third line of the stanza, of the first stanza, it states, I think whatever gods may be, which shows that William Ernest Henley was not a believer of the God of the Bible. Actually, for those who know history, he was an existentialist or an atheist. Henley wrote Invictus when he was 27 years old, having battled tuberculosis of the bones for years, and which did kill him in his 50s. Because of his atheism, he believed that he was his own God. He looked within himself for his own strength and not the Most High. In the last two lines in the last stanza of the poems, right? I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. He pretty much lets you know right there that he, not the Most High, has control of his own soul and fate. And the sad truth is that most of these Black Greek letter organizations strut around as Christian organizations. But if these organizations were truly worshippers of the Most High of the Bible, then why would all of these Black Greek letter organizations recite these poems both in private and in the public? Again, this poem was written by an atheist, and this poem recites and proclaims atheistic viewpoints that is contradictory to the biblical principles. Unless you sell your soul to the prince of the power of the airs, your soul belongs to the Most High, not yourself. Therefore, you are not the captain of your own soul. All in all, if you call yourself a Christian, then this should tell you that these organizations are far from the biblical truth. Next and lastly, I want to touch on this concept of crossing the burning sands. This sacred ritual is a ritual that I and other members all had to do in order to become members. And that process was called crossing the burning sands. Now I want y'all to think Bible. Just think Bible and ask yourself, what does crossing the burning sands sound like? Observe 2 Chronicles chapter 33, verses 1 through 6. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 50 years in Jerusalem, but did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served them. Also he built altars in the house of the Lord, whereof the Lord has said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. And he built altars for all the hosts of the heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Also he observed times, and used enchantments, and used witchcraft, and dealt with a familiar spirit, and with wizards. He wrought much evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. Let's focus in on the concept of pass through the fire. See, most people automatically think and only think of the literal child sacrifices to Moloch. But when you actually study the Bible, you'll see in some cases where the word made or make is used instead of caused. 11 times pass through the fire is in the Bible, which is also the number for chaos. The first time being the commandment, then 5 times caused them to pass through the fire, and then the next 5 times the term make them pass through the fire is used. Therefore, what is the difference between causing someone to do something and making someone to do something? When we continue on to verses 20 through 22, after Manasseh humbled himself before the Lord, the concept of pass through the fire seems to have a sacred meaning. 2 Chronicles chapter 3, verse 20 through 22, it states, So Manasseh slept with his father, and they buried him in his own house. And Amon, his son, reigned in his stead. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. But he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as did Manasseh his father. For Amon sacrificed unto all the carved images which Manasseh his father had made, and served them. Nowhere do we see that Amon, the child of Manasseh, being literally killed through sacrifice. Scripture states that Manasseh caused his children to pass through the fire. Therefore, the children were influenced and made their own decision to pass through the fire. Also, it does not say that his children, except Amon, passed through the fire. So is it possible for the concept of passing through the fire might mean the same as the process I went through called crossing the burning sands? When we look at the Hebrew word used, the term they use, the term for pass through and cause to is abar. In translation, it means to literally pass over or to pass away or to pass over into the spiritual world. With that meaning, it is possible that Amon passed through the fire into the occult or the ancient mystery schools. And the answer is yes, because in this case, we see that Amon was initiated into the occult. Likewise, with the Black Greek letter organizations and crossing the burning sands. Literally, we had to walk through the sands that was burning with flames, and then we became rebirthed or born again. And where did we cross into? I can only speak for Kappa Alpha Psi, but we crossed the burning sands right into Kappa land, right? AKA full membership and full access to the mysteries of Kappa Alpha Psi. And no longer was I named Reggie. I was now number 4, fall 15, uncanny, UNKANNY. Family. Just because you don't see it outright openly or the terms may be different from the terms that were used in this here King James Bible doesn't mean it ain't the same as what was going on during the times of the ancient Babylon or Kemetic mystery school. Sure, it may be a diluted version of the process of crossing the burning sands or passing through the fire, but still there's no new thing under the sun. And I want you to all ponder this as well, that the fact that most of the times parents and other family members influence and cause their children to join these Black Greek letter organizations because they themselves are a part of these organizations. Just as Manasseh caused and did not make, meaning force, his children to join the occult, we see the same today with some of these parents calling themselves Christians on top of that. These parents have sinned greatly by causing their children to pass through the fire. How is that worshiping God in spirit and in truth? All in all, the concept of passing through the fire and crossing the burning sands are one and the same. So peace.